Medicals are done, the contract has been signed. Raphael Varane is officially a Manchester United player. We have signed a top 5 centre back. There is no denying that he's top 5. For some people, he even may be a top 3 centre back. And I will agree with it. For me, he's in my top 3, guys. But there is no denying that he's a top 5 centre back. And for me, my top 5 in the world of football is number 1, Sergio Ramos. Number 2, Virgil van Dijk. Number 3, Varane. Number 4, Marquinhos. And number 5, Ruben Diaz. Now, you hit the comments and you tell me your top 5, but for me that's my top 5. Now some people will have Varane at 4th, some people will have Varane at 5th, but we cannot deny, and I'm sure he will be in everyone's top 5. If you're watching this video, you like the content, but you haven't subscribed as yet, hit that subscribe button. We have signed an elite centre back, guys. An elite centre back, not just world class, elite centre back. When you think of the stages that this guy has performed on, there is no higher platform, there is no higher level that you can perform on as a football player than the stages that Varane has performed on and he has conquered. This is a guy that has won 4 Champions League titles, 4 Club World Cups, 3 Super Cups, 3 La Ligas, 3 Super Copa, 1 Copa del Rey, and a World Cup. He has won everything in the game. This guy's CV, you don't get many players with CVs like this. To top it off, a World Cup. People may have Champions League, they may have their domestic league, they may have the cups, but can you add a World Cup onto that? Very few players have the CV that Varane has. And that's what blows my mind when you hear some of the pundits talking about, like on Talk Sport, Danny Mills comes on and questions whether Varane will be able to adapt to the Premier League, because in La Liga Varane doesn't have to perform at his best, whereas in the Premier League you have to constantly be performing at your best. How do you question someone with the CV of Varane's? How can you question him? And first of all, the only people that can question Varane's capabilities and criticize him is people that have done better than him. So there is no England player in the history of English football that can ever talk to Varane, because they don't have a CV like Varane. They don't have the Champions Leagues. They don't have the World Cup like Varane has. So first of all, no English player in the history of English football can talk to Varane. The only players that can talk to Varane is players that have won more than him, or even that have won on the same level as him. And guys, in the history of the game, there's very few players. So that's why I tell you, we have signed an elite player. An elite player. Now, I have Real Madrid fans. I have Real Madrid, friends that are fans of Real Madrid, that support the club. And they have told me for the past 2 years, Varane has not been in good form. He's been in poor form. I have seen it myself. I watch La Liga. I watch maybe every second game of Real Madrid. I watch every game of Barcelona, because I also support Barcelona along with Man United. And so I do have one eye on La Liga, and I have seen that as well, that Varane has not been at his best. We've all seen in the Champions League 2 years ago where he personally took out Real Madrid when they played Man City. Personally, he gave them 2 goals. He gave Man City 2 goals. So I have seen it. And the fans of Real Madrid that are my friends have confirmed, and they've said Varane has not been playing at his best for 2 years. And that's part of the reason why Perez, Real Madrid, have sold Varane. Real Madrid will never sell a player that they still believe can be valuable to them. They will never. If a player is leaving Real Madrid, it's because they want that player to leave them. It's because they think that player is of no value to them anymore. So Real Madrid, once they've used you, once they've got everything out of you, and I don't mean used in a bad way, don't take it in a bad way, but once they've got everything out of you that you can possibly give to their club, then they sell you off. They will never let a player go when a player still got better years ahead of him and can still add value to their club. Real Madrid are one of the greatest clubs in the history of the game, guys. They're not, sorry. They are the greatest club in the history of the game. They're not one of the greatest, they are the greatest club in the history of the game. So don't ever think that Man United got one over Real Madrid. That will never happen. This is the greatest club in the history of the game. They've got the best people working at that club. They're one of the best run clubs in the game. So the fact that they've sold Varane is because they've seen that Varane hasn't been performing to his best. He hasn't been performing to his best for 2 seasons. They've also seen, as many of us have seen, that Varane without Ramos is a different Varane. And that is because Varane needs a combative, commanding centre-back next to him. He's not that. Varane is a very quiet guy. He's a very soft guy. Now, I'm not meaning he's soft in the game. No, he will put his foot in a challenge. But he relies on a commanding, combative centre-back next to him. And that's what Ramos. And Ramos is the ultimate leader. So when you've got a leader such as Ramos and you've got a combative centre-back such as Ramos, that's an environment that Varane thrives in. Now, as I've said to you, for the past 2 years, Varane has not been in good form. Come back to the Euros a couple months ago as well. Varane had one good game. One world-class game in the Euros. Every other game, Varane was average. Varane was poor in the game France got knocked out. When France got knocked out to Switzerland, Varane was poor. Varane was at fault for 2 goals. The first goal, he could not jump high enough and he could not shrug the attacker off. And he lost the header. Now, I understand that, you can come up against attackers like Ibrahimovic, attackers like even Ronaldo, that they can jump higher than you. I cannot degrade a centre-back and criticize a centre-back when players like Ibrahimovic are winning headers. No, they will always win those headers. But when it's an attacker that it's more or less your height, and he out-jumps you, and he jumps on top of you that you are not able to even get off the ground, that's when I have to criticize you. Varane was at fault for that goal. He could not get off the ground high enough and quick enough to win the header. He was at fault for that goal. Then he was at fault for Switzerland's last goal, equalizing goal that made it 3-3. He could not organize his defense. Now, Varane was the most senior player in that squad. One of the most senior players in that squad along with Benzema and Griezmann. Certainly, he was the most senior player in that defense. So it is his responsibility to organize the defensive line. That's his responsibility, to make sure everybody is in line and they pushing up at the right time and they're coming back at the right time, but they are in line. That's his responsibility. He was playing alongside Kimpembe. He is the senior to Kimpembe. So he was playing alongside this defensive line, and for the last goal, that defensive line was non-existent. You have to question Varane. Where was he? He's the leader of that defense. Where was he? It's the same with Man United, how we question Harry Maguire. That happens a lot with Man United, where our defensive line is shambolic, our defensive line is all over the place, and we question Maguire, and rightly so, because he's the senior player in that defensive line. So, Varane was at fault for 2 goals where France got knocked out against Switzerland, and that's why I say Varane has not been in the best of form coming into Manchester United. So if Varane does not pull up trees, it's not because he's going to struggle in the Premier League. It's because he has not been on good form. Now people will say, oh, Varane's 28, so he's in the prime of his career, and even when he goes to 29, he'll still be in his prime. Guys, I beg to differ. People think just because of your age, people think that 27, 28, 29, that's your prime years. Guys, it differs from player to player. Prime got to do with the genes of a player. It's not just a formula that you can wrap around and just say, oh no, this player is 27, 28, 29, therefore he's in his prime. No, it got to do with genetics. It got to do with how well this player is keeping his body. Does he still have the pace that he once had? Does he still have the ability that he once had? It got to do with genetics. It's not just a formula. So you can't just say because a player is 27, 28, 29, he's in his prime. It differs. Case in point, Wayne Rooney. Wayne Rooney was in the prime of his career in his early 20s. 20, 21, 22, 23. Wayne Rooney was in the prime of his career. When Wayne Rooney hit 28, he was washed. Washed. He was washed at 28 years old. So it differs from players to players, guys. It differs from players to players, the prime. And Raphael Varane is coming to the end of his prime. Where people will say that don't understand prime, like I've just explained to you, people will say, oh, Varane is still in his prime and he's still going to get better because he's only 28. No, Varane is coming out of his prime. Varane's prime was 4 years ago when Real Madrid were winning back-to-back consecutive Champions Leagues. That was Varane's prime. Right now, Varane is entering out of his prime. He's exiting his prime. I think this will be his last season in his prime, and I think after that, he won't be in his prime anymore. Now, this is not me saying he's going to come and be an horrific defender. He's going to come and perform poorly. No, just won't be his prime. It's just that you're not going to get the best out of Varane of what you've seen. The Varane that you've seen, you're not going to get better than that. This is the Varane that we are going to get, guys. We're still going to get a world-class player because he's still a world-class player, but he's not the Varane of 4 years ago that was winning Champions League titles and that was playing alongside Ramos. He's not that guy. So Ole Gunnar Solskjaer comes out and he says that Varane, with the signing of Varane, it enables him and it enables Manchester United to play in different ways. Now, the only different way that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is talking about is moving the team further up forward. So he's going to push the team further up forward. The back line is going to play probably 5 yards higher up the field, which most big teams play like that. Look at in the Premier League, Manchester City play like that. Liverpool, when they had Van Dijk, they were playing like that up until Van Dijk got injured. Then you can't play like that anymore. Chelsea don't play like that, no. Then Bayern Munich, they're the kings of a high line, and I'll speak on them more. Real Madrid, Barcelona, they play high line. So most of the biggest clubs in Europe play with a high line. Varane is used to playing with a high line. He's used to playing with a high line. He's used to being the last man, making recovery runs and following the attackers when the ball goes over the defense. He's used to that. That's what he was doing at Real Madrid. Sergio Ramos was the defender that was stepping into the midfield. Varane was the defender that was holding his position and making those recovery runs against the opponent's attackers. So he's used to that. So Ole is saying that he wants to that Varane's going to enable him to play in a different way. So Ole wants to move the team further up the pitch, as I said, approximately about 5 yards up the pitch. And I don't think we'll go to the lengths that Bayern Munich have gone, where they play their defensive line on the halfway line. I don't think we will do that, but it will be close to the halfway line. I think it may be maybe 2 yards just off the halfway line, but it will be close to that. Now, guys, in playing like that, in playing with a high line, in moving your defense higher up the field, it's high risk, high reward. High risk, high reward. You look at Manchester City, high risk, high reward. When you see when Manchester City lose the ball and the team and the opponents turn the ball over, Manchester City are vulnerable to massive counter-attacks and some clear-cut chances they give away because of the football and the way that they play. It's the same with Barcelona. It's the same with Real Madrid. It's the same with all the big teams. When they do concede possession and the opponents turn the ball over, they are susceptible to massive counter-attacks and clear-cut chances. Now, Manchester United in times past with this manager has not been susceptible to those counter-attacks and those chances because we played conservative football, because our line of defense was very deep. Moving the defense line high up the field means that you will be susceptible to these counter-attacks. You will be susceptible to give away these clear-cut opportunities. Now, I don't fully trust Varane to defend one-on-one in the Premier League, this current Varane. As I've said to you earlier, we are not getting the Varane of 4 years ago that was in the peak of his powers, in the prime of his career. We're getting a Varane that's exiting his prime. I don't trust him to defend one-on-one in the Premier League when you're playing against fast players, when you're playing against managers and teams that analyze you. I don't trust him to defend in that one-on-one situations. Varane does not have the pace that he once had. He's still fast, he's still quick, but he's not as fast as 4 years ago. That's why I was telling you guys, he was in the peak of his powers 4 years ago. He's not as fast as that. Right now, people can't beat Varane in a foot race. There are many attackers in the Premier League that can't beat Varane in a foot race. Whereas 4 years ago, no one could beat Varane in a foot race. He probably could keep up with Aubameyang. That's how fast he was. Right now, many players will beat him in a foot race. So only wanting to move the team further forward, the line higher up the field. As I've said, it's high risk, high reward, guys, and I'll be speaking on Bayern Munich with the high line, and as I'm speaking, I'll put up pictures of Bayern Munich's high line to give you an illustration and a clearer image of what I'm talking about, high risk, high reward, and show you how Bayern Munich play with a high line. Because for me, they done it to the highest of levels. They won the Champions League playing with the high line, and many people, when they won the Champions League 2 years ago, will say, you know what, this high line is going to be the Achilles heel. People are going to find them out with the high line. But as I've said, it's high risk, high reward. The rewards are high and the risks are high as well. So let's go through the rewards. When you're playing with the high line, guys, what it enables you to do, you move your defensive line up, higher up the pitch. Let's just say they're sitting on the halfway line. Let's just say Bayern Munich were like that. Their centre backs were sitting on the halfway line. So when you play with that high line, it makes you suffocate the opponent. The opponent suffocates because the opponent is locked in their half. You only play in one half of the field. You don't play in two halves anymore. You play in one half of the field, and you suffocate the opponents so that even when you lose the ball, you can win the ball back easily because your players are close to their players, and the pitch, you condense and make the pitch smaller. So when the opponents get the ball, you are right there next to them to win and nick that ball away from them. As a result of that is the counter pressing, and when you win that ball back, you win it back in a position where you can do damage. In a position where you can just maybe make one or two passes, and all of a sudden you've got a clear shot on goal with the keeper. High risk, high reward. Now, when you play like this, guys, when you move your line higher up the field, there's three things you have to have that Bayern Munich had. As I said, use Bayern Munich as an example. Bayern Munich had a centre-back in Alaba that was fast, that could make recovery runs, and his reading of the game is fantastic. They had a centre-back in Alaba. They had Alphonso Davies, a left-back that was the quickest in the game. That is one of the quickest players in European football. And then they had a sweeper keeper in Manuel Neuer. So you have to have these three functions, guys. You have to have a fast centre-back, you have to have a full-back that is extremely fast, and you have to have a keeper that can read the danger and come out of his box and be a sweeper keeper. Because there's moments when the there's moments when the opponents will turn the ball over. They'll put a ball over your defense, and that ball maybe hits with too much power. Thereafter, your keeper needs to come out, read that situation, and kick that ball or control the ball and lay it back to your team. So any ball that drops in the middle of him and the defense, and whereby he can see he has an opportunity to get that ball, he has to go out of his box and sweep that ball. Manuel Neuer is the best in the game at doing it. Then you've got keepers in the likes of Ederson for Manchester City, where you see him also being a sweeper keeper, comes out of his box, reads the danger, gets the ball away from the centre-back and the opponents, and everything is at a calm at that situation. And you have to do that. You have to do that because... sorry, I just lost my train of thought. You have to do that because when the opponent plays that ball, and let's just say the keeper stays in his box and the opponent plays that long ball, then it's an outright race with your centre-back and with the opponent's attacker. It's a race, and anything can happen in a race, guys. Anything can happen in a race. Your centre-back can trip over his own feet. That player maybe will shoulder bump your centre-back, no foul, and then all of a sudden he's one-on-one with your keeper. 90% of the time he'll score. So your keeper has to be a sweeper keeper. You have to have those three fundamentals. Man United got a centre-back that has recovery pace in Varane. They need to, therefore, for me, Wan-Bissaka needs to be next to Varane, making those recovery runs, because Wan-Bissaka is fast, and Wan-Bissaka is the best one-on-one defender in the world. In the world, no one goes past Wan-Bissaka. I mean, we saw Neymar, we saw Mbappe come along against Wan-Bissaka, and they had no joy. They could not get past this guy. He's the best one-on-one defender in the world. So Man United need to give Wan-Bissaka instructions to not attack, because guys, he can't attack. He doesn't have the technical ability to attack. It's useless Wan-Bissaka going along the line and running up the line where there's no end product, there's no assist, there's no chance being created, there's no goal. It's useless. Tell him to stay behind let him stay alongside Varane. Now, this is not me saying playing as a centre-back to Varane. No, but let him stay alongside Varane. And let him make those recovery runs with Varane. And then we need a keeper, a sweeper keeper. And that's where my problem comes in. We don't have that. David De Gea cannot do that. We've seen David De Gea is not a sweeper keeper. He cannot do that. Dean Henderson can be a sweeper keeper, but I've seen faults in his game. And I've seen times when he wanted to do that sweeper keeper job and he's failed. He needs coaching. He needs time. So that's the elements that you have to have, guys, in when you play in a high line. You have to have those elements. And do I think Man United can coach that? No. That's why for me, I think this high line, guys, is a myth for Man United. I think we will try it out, but I think we will get caught out. We can succeed with the high line against the smaller teams, against Newcastle, against the teams that just got promoted from the championship. We can succeed with the high line, and I'm all for that. But the minute we play the likes of Everton, we play the likes of West Ham, we even play the likes of Crystal Palace, I think that we will come short because we don't have the coaching ability to coach playing with a high line. Playing with a high line goes hand in hand with pressing. Because your team is so up the pitch, when you lose the ball, you have to press and win that ball back as fast as you can. Manchester United, under 2.5 seasons under this current regime, cannot press. We haven't seen our team press as a group of players. We press individually where you'll have 3 players running and the other players are just standing still. The opponents beat our press and they play out of our press. We still can't press after 2.5 seasons under this current regime. Therefore, that's why I'm saying this high line, I don't trust this coaching staff and this manager to implement it the way it's supposed to be implemented and to be successful. They cannot coach pressing, so there in and of itself, when we lose the ball, that team is going to turn over the ball, play the ball over our defensive players, and they'll be running one-on-one with our keepers and running one-on-one with our defenders. So I've discussed, guys, the high rewards. High risks is that, as I've said, when the opponents turn the ball over, if they get an opportunity to lift their head and play that ball over or through your defense is going to be defending one-on-one. Your defenders are going to be defending one-on-one. As I've said earlier, I don't trust Varane, this current Varane, to defend one-on-one. Varane 4 years ago, I trust him against any attacker to defend one-on-one. I don't trust him to defend one-on-one. I trust Wan-Bissaka to defend one-on-one. Here and there, Luke Shaw, maybe. Harry Maguire, no. So, high risk, high reward. The high risk is that when the team turns the ball over, you are going to be defending one-on-one. You are going to be conceding counterattacks and massive clear-cut chances you are going to be conceding. So that's the risk that gets played when you operate with a high line. I don't trust Man United to coach that, as I've said. I don't. And guys, Bayern Munich were the epitome of playing with a high line. They reaped the rewards, and there were certain games where they were vulnerable to risks, and there were goals that they conceded. But if you have a proper coaching system and they can coach that high line, it can be a massive, massive, massive tool that you have in your arsenal to use for the opponent, because as I said, it suffocates the opponents in their half. They can't get out. They can't get out, but you have to initiate that press. I don't trust Man United to initiate that press, guys. So the signing of Varane, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will want to do this. There's rumors that Ole wants to go to a 4-3-3 instead of a 4-2-3-1, which I think is a myth. I think it's just something that paper talk. I don't ever believe Ole will change to 4-3-3. I was the one advocating for Ole to change to 4-3-3 last season. I don't understand you playing 4-2-3-1, 2 holding midfielders against the small teams in the league. No. When we're playing the likes of Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea, I'm all for playing 4-2-3-1, 2 holding midfielders. I agree. But when you're playing the other teams, even the West Hams, the Crystal Palaces, the Aston Villa, the Evertons, you need to be playing with 1 holding midfielder. I would love Ole to switch to 4-3-3 because I believe that's our best formation according to the players that we might have. Yes, we need a DM. You need a DM for that. Ole don't think we need a DM, but Paul Pogba thrives in a 4-3-3. And you can play Bruno as a 10 or as an 8. So Ole will be making certain changes because of the inclusion of Varane. Let's just see how it pans out. But that's my verdict, guys. High risk, high reward. When you look at how Bayern Munich done it, very risky, very risky. However, if you got the right coaching, it can be success for you. Guys, that's my video of Varane. We've signed Varane. He's coming in and being a mainstay next to Harry Maguire. I can't wait for the season to start. If you're watching this and you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, smash the like button, and I'll see you for the next video. Peace.